Keeper of the Lost Cities. Chapter 34. The council was right. Information had been planted in her brain. The idea was too huge. She couldn't make it fit inside her head. Her hand shook as she ripped the photo off the scrapbook. She was violating everything Alden told her, everything the council ordered. But if anyone found out, her life would never be the same again. She couldn't face that. She slipped the photo into the middle of a thick book and shoved the book among a dozen other thick books on the highest shelf. It should be safe there, for now. All she wanted was to curl into a ball and never get up again. But she didn't have time. Someone stuck stuff in her brain and she needed to find those memories before they got her in trouble again. What had made her think of Elementine? She pulled out her star maps and plotted the stars on her list on one page, like she had seen Kendrick do at the tribunal. The six stars formed two lines pointing straight to Elementine. The room swam around her. It couldn't be an accident. That list must have been made specifically for her, which meant someone wanted her to find Elementine. But who? And why? And what would they want next? She stayed up all night projecting anything she could think of into her memory log. But when the sun rose, she was no closer to the answer. All she knew for sure was that she had to keep it secret. If the council found out, they'd never let her stay at Foxfire. Bront would make sure of it. They might even decide she was dangerous, and she didn't want to think about what they'd do then, especially since he couldn't be sure she wasn't dangerous. She had almost blown up the school, or worse. What if that had been the plan when someone gave her that list? Now where seemed safe enough to hide the memory log. So she stuffed it in the bottom of her satchel to keep all her with her all at all time. None of her friends noticed how stressed she was. They were used to her difficulties in PE, and during lunch they were too distracted by all the pressure they were getting to manifest special abilities. It wasn't until telepathy that she wished she had stayed home sick. Did you sleep at all night? Tyrigan asked as she slumped into her chair. No, there was no point lying. She had seen her reflection. Her dark circles revealed Adeline's. I expected as much. He cleared his throat. Alden told me what happened yesterday. She should have guessed that, which meant he knew how about her special assignment. She gripped her satchel like holding it tighter would protect the secrets inside. Have you started the memory log? He asked, co- confirming her fear. She hesitated for the second before she nodded. I assume you don't want to show me. Silence stretched between them until Tyrigan removed a black pathfinder from his pocket. Concentrate, he commanded, and a wave of blue light swept them away. Noise hammered into her brain as the scenery glittered back into substance. Remember the shield, Targan shouted as she covered her ears, trying to squeeze out the pain. She closed her eyes and pushed against the noise with her mind. The chaos quieted and she started breathing again. Targan led her to a bench and she sank down, exhausted. He plopped beside her. Welcome to Los Angeles. Actually, I believe they call this place Hollywood. She had been away from humans for almost 6 months, long enough to forget the traffic pollution and thrash. It turned her stomach. Aren't we a little conspicuous? She pulled out her stupid cape. Here, across the street, Spider Man and Batman posed for pictures outside Man's Chinese theater. No, I guess not. If anything, they had blended it right in. What are we doing here? Breaking the law. He held up the pathfinder, casting blue beams of light on the ground. Only blue crystals take you to the forbidden cities, and only certain members of the nobility are allowed to have them. Mine was issued back when I worked for the council, and I forgot to give it back when I resigned. So this trip is a little secret, okay? She nodded. I came here sometimes. I'm not supposed to, but it helps to see them in real life. He pointed to the humans wandering the streets, oblivious to the elves sitting around them. We have cut ourselves off, vanished into the light, makes it easy to forget how similar we are, or could be, if they weren't so stubborn. He paused, like he was waiting for her to speak. but she didn't know what to say. Do you miss your human life? He asked. She thought about the headaches, the fear of discovery, how out of place she always felt, and opened her mouth to say no. But sometimes I miss my family, slipped out instead. His expression softened. That's good, Sophie. You, of all people, should never forget where you came from. If you ever need reminding, let me know, and I'll bring you here. She nodded. Do you wonder why you were hidden with humans? Her mind darted unwillingly to Prentice. My real parents must have wanted to get rid of me, she whispered. He closed his eyes, and pain seeped into his features. Trust me, Sophie, no one got rid of you. Don't you know how special you are? Yeah, special enough to have secret information stored in my brain without my permission, she mumbled, which was probably why Prentice got rid of her. Who had want a freak for a daughter? Or maybe he was the one who planted the information. Her hands clenched into fists. That's not the only reason you're special, believe me. Targan cleared the strain out of his voice. Have you remembered anything else since the tribunal? She watched an ant crawl across the dirty pavement. I understand if you aren't ready to talk about it, but don't be afraid to explore your memories. They might be only the only way to understand who you really are. What if I'm someone bad? She whispered, putting words to the fear that had consumed her since yesterday. I can assure you you're not, he promised. She shook her head, refusing to believe him. What do you know about Prentice? Tiger shifted in his seat. I know that's classified information, but I think I deserve to know who he was. She took an extra breath for courage. He was my father, wasn't he? Targan sucked in a breath. Of course not. Why would you think that? He was a keeper and he was exiled because of me. It's not hard to put the pieces together. Sophie, look at me, Tygon said, waiting until she did. Prentice was exiled because he was hiding your existence, not because he was responsible for it. What do you mean? He hesitated, and she could tell he was wearing with himself, deciding how much to say. Please, she whispered, no one will tell me anything about my past. He sighed and looked away. When he spoke, his words were hurried, like he was forcing them out before he could change his mind. Prentice was a keeper for a group called the Black Swan, and the information he was hiding was you. Where to find you? I had warned Prentice there would be a consequences for helping the Black Swan, but he didn't listen. And when he was captured, he sacrificed his sanity to keep you hidden. Now he lives in exile, his mind a shattered, useless mess. That's why you're so upset with Alden? He nodded. Alden was the one who found him. I pleaded for mercy on Prentice's behalf, but the council demanded to know what Prentice hid in his mind. So Alden oversaw something called a memory book break. It's a type of probe that shatters someone's sanity in order to access their hidden memories. Sophie shivered. She couldn't picture Alden carrying out that kind of order unless he knew he was right. But why would Prentice just tell them where she was? What exactly is the Black Swan? Something our society doesn't know what to do with. He wrung the edge of his cape between his hands. The name is a metaphor. For thousands of years, humans were convinced there were no such thing as a black swan. So, when a black swan was found, it became a symbol of something that shouldn't exist but does. A small group of insurgents in our society adopted the name. A brewing rebellion, a black swan, in a society where rebellion isn't supposed to exist. How do you know so much about them? She had to ask. You're not the only one with secrets you'd rather not share. Sophie swallowed, realizing how little she knew about her favorite mentor. He couldn't be involved in anything wrong, could he? No. Target was one of the kindest person she knew. She could never be bad. Bad. So the black swans are the bad guys, right? She whispered, staring at her hands. And if they have something to do with me, she couldn't bear to follow the thought to its ends. Target took her hands and waited for her to meet his eyes. Whatever the black swan is, it has nothing to do with who you are. When I look at you, I only see good. You came forward when you cheated. You even choose to serve your detention when you didn't have to. Whatever's in your mind is just information, and whatever secret lies in your past do not change who you are now. I have no doubt you'll make the right decisions whenever the time comes to make them. His words felt more healing than the balm Elvin used to cool her burns. Her voice was thick when she spoke. Thank you, Tiger. I'll try to remember that. She wasn't sure what to do with the other things he told her. The bits and pieces belonged to a puzzle she didn't know if she wanted to solve. For now, she tucked them away, clinging to the hope that Tiger was right, that she was good. As long as that was true, she could survive pretty much anything else. Despite Tiger's encouragement, Sophie didn't feel ready for anyone to know about her revelations, especially Bront. She kept the memory log with her at all times and only took it out to work on when she was alone. Grady and Adeline were used to her practicing alchemy in the caves, so they didn't question her disappearing after school every day with Iggy. And Dex was so busy with the added ability detecting exercises, he didn't notice they weren't hanging out as much. The only one who seemed concerned was Biana. She cornered Sophie in the hallway. Are you mad at me? What? No. Why? You haven't come over in at least 3 weeks. It was before the school was evacuated. Had it really been that long? Sorry, I've been super busy. Do you want to come over this weekend? I don't think I can. She needed to avoid Alden, so he wouldn't ask to see her memory log. What about next weekend? Sure. Biana seemed so insistent, and she could always cancel. Biana straightened, like a weight had been lifted off her shoulders. Cool. I'll tell my parents so they know to be home. Oh, good. She was sure her smile looked more like grimace. Deep down, she knew she was overreacting. Other than Elementine and the photo of the sand castle, she hadn't found anything significant. She had poured through her scrapbook for anything elfish and recorded every dream, but there was nothing worth hiding. Maybe Elementine was one time thing. She wasn't going to stop searching, but maybe she didn't need to stress so much about the memory log. So she didn't cancel her plans with Biana. She went to Everglen and it felt like coming home. They played Base Quest and this time she was on Fitz's team. His eyes held a tiny bit of envy when Fitz showed him the way she tracked through thoughts to an exact location. She tried to teach him, but his mind couldn't master it. So she did the tracking and transmitted the location to him so he could tag Keith and Biana out. She was so familiar with the feel of Fitz's mind after all the time she had transmitted to him across the campus during her telepathy sessions. She barely had to concentrate to find him. After losing 3 rounds in a row, Keith refused to play unless Sophie was on his team. She agreed to the switch and then transmitted their hiding spot to Fitz so they'd lose and keep the suspicions off, uh, of her. Keith looked ready to explode when Fitz tagged him out the second time, and he spent the rest of the night grumbling about conspiracies. Sophie laughed until her sides hurt. She couldn't believe she had let fear keep her away from this much fun over for a month, especially since Alden never asked to see her memory log. He and Della hugged her, told her to visit more often, and disappeared for the rest of the day on official business. For once, she didn't want to know where they went. She was done asking questions, done investigating conspiracies. Not that she had made any headway. She didn't want to accidentally trigger any more memories. Ignorance was safer. Whatever was going on was the council's problem, not hers. She wouldn't let fear control her again. She made it one whole month without unnecessary stress or worry. And then Dame Alina said the two most terrifying words ever: final exams. 1 month until finals. And even if she passed the test, she still had to face another tribunal where the council, Bront, would permanently decide her future at Foxfire. She felt like throwing up every time she thought about it. Alchemy was still her worst subject, but she also struggled with elementalism and PE. All the subjects where she had to do things, not just learn. She still hadn't figured out how to turn off the part of her brain that screamed levitating was impossible, that lighting couldn't be jarred, that law of conservation of mass was a legitimate scientific principle, and it always messed her up. Dex had been nagging her for months to try an elixir he invented called Noganese, which contained limbium, a rare mineral that could supposedly clear her mind. She had resisted since she couldn't use it during the exams, and maybe it was like learning to ride a bike. She needed training wheels to start. Dex looked downright giddy when she asked for a bottle, probably because her lack of skill caused him to lose when they were on the same team in PE. He bought her a week's supply the next morning. She swallowed the unnatural cold syrup in one gulp, wincing as the chill ran down her throat. I don't feel different, Dex laughed. Give it a chance. Your body needs time to absorb it. I should probably change into my uniform then. A few steps toward the locker room, her mind first. She leaned against the wall for support. I don't think it's working right. She couldn't describe what was happening, but she was pretty sure it wasn't a good thing. Dex rushed to her side. You don't look so great. I don't feel so great. She closed her eyes. The blurry vision was nauseating and tore her clothes. It was far, far too hot to wear a cape. Here, let me, Dex said, unfastening the clasp on her cape. What's wrong? I don't know. She tugged at her vest. My skin's on fire. Whoa, what are those? Dex pointed the huge red bumps plopping out on her arms. Oh no, she gasped, collapsing. Allergy. Dex caught her before she hit the ground. Allergy? What's an allergy? She wanted to explain, but her chest felt like something was crushing it and she couldn't get enough air. The world spun harder and her vision dimmed. Hang on, I'll take you to Elvin. Dex threw her over his shoulder and then they were moving. He was strong, but they were the same height, and she weighed almost as much as he did. So their progress was slow, maybe too slow. Fear settled into every muscle, making her tremble. Then someone else grabbed her, cradling in their arms. She heard some sort of discussion, an argument maybe, and then she was moving much faster. She was too far gone to make sense of it. There was a tugging in her stomach and burning in her throat, and then she was out cold.